We have two keynote speakers tonight. The first one is Reverend Dr. Joe Hooper, and the AMVETS Third Vice Commander Laura Meeks will introduce him at this time.
Harry? Hi, my name is Laura Meeks. I'm the Third Vice President of Post 66, U.S. Air Force Major retired. And I did want to make one quick statement about something that Tom had said, and to help put this in perspective for you. 1981, the United Nations decides that they're going to put together a day of peace. And they put together a proclamation. It turns out that in 1981, think about the odds of this happening today. 193 delegates, 93 countries unanimously decide that we're going to pick a day, 21st of September, and we're all going to gather and celebrate peace on that day. Awesome. And I'm not sure that could happen today. It is my pleasure today to introduce our next guest speaker, the Reverend and Dr. Joe Hooper. Joe Hooper comes to us from the Center for Spiritual Living in Palm Desert. The center, by the way, is a very welcoming community. It welcomes members of all faiths and all religions. It is open to all ethnicities, all sexualities, all genders. We bring in everybody. It is a truly welcoming place for everyone. Joe is married to his husband Trey, who is a pilot for Alaska Airlines. And they have raised a daughter from a little baby, and she is now also a pilot, an instructor pilot looking for a career in aviation. Joe's leadership at the center promotes the inherent dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all human beings, as outlined in the Rights of Peace Declaration signed by the United Nations on this International Day of Peace. I bring you Reverend and Dr. Joe Hooper.
Yay.
Thank you. Good evening. Do I need this? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So I was thinking about peace and what Tom was saying and how the United Nations set this up in 1981, and I just find it really interesting. We have a Department of War, but we don't have a Department of Peace. Wouldn't that be interesting if we're talking about peace, we need to actually talk about it on a global level and on a national level and say, you know what, if this is a real priority, we need to make it a priority. Peace is not the absence of war or violence. In my mind, peace is the absence of chaos and misunderstanding. I know personally as a gay man, no one really understood what it meant to be a gay person until you become one, until you come out, and until you declare who you are. And there's a lot of confusion around that, and people tend to persecute people that they don't understand. And what I find and sort of interesting is that when we look at the world in general, it's all a lot of misunderstandings. It's a lot of, we just don't understand each other. We're not communicating with one another. We're not talking to one another enough so that we can build the bridge to peace. We're too busy trying to pound our chests and say things that threaten other nations. And in my mind, that's never going to happen. That's never going to bring about peace. I did some research, and I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a fact that since recorded time, there have been less than 10,000 days in total where the world has not been at war in some way, shape, or form, and most of them over religious persecution and religious reasons. I mean, when you think about the whole totality of history, that we only have 10,000 days in total, and that means like 2 days here, a day here, 2 days here, 9,000, I think it was 9,135 to be exact, where we haven't been at war. So what does that mean to me? What it means to me is that if, like Tom said so beautifully, he actually stole my conclusion. I have to tell you, he stole my conclusion that, you know, when we talk about the peace song, peace begins with us. I belong to a homeowners association. And that's a unique opportunity to establish peace in a community, isn't it? If we can't get along with our own neighbors, how can we expect nations to get along? Peace starts within us, and Tom said that so beautifully as well. That is, it truly is an inside job. I think we maybe need to retrain our minds and allow ourselves to be peaceful amongst the chaos, if that makes sense to you. Because there is so much chaos, and there is so much animosity, and there is so much, people hurling different things back and forth politically that it can become overwhelming. And we may not see the pathway. So I think it was Van Gogh who said, if you hear a voice telling you that you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. I think many times we have to allow ourselves to experience it and say, you know what, I have to make the effort. I have to make the effort in my own community and my own neighborhood, for actually my own house first. We should probably start. I have a teenage daughter, so we all know that starts in the house. So it starts in the home, and it starts in our communities and our neighborhoods, and then it goes out into different faith communities, and it goes out into our county, and it goes out into our state, and then it goes into our country, and it goes into our continent, then it goes into a world that works for everyone. One of the things that we talk about at the Center for Spiritual Living is building a world that works for everyone, where everyone is included and no one is ostracized for the way they want to think, the way they want to believe and worship, the way their color of their skin or their religious preference or their sexual preference. It makes no difference to us. We want to try to build that world. And to me, building that world is understanding that peace is about respect. I don't have to agree with you and what you're doing or the positions that you take, but I need to respect that you have the right to believe what you want to believe. As long as it doesn't, in our particular faith tradition, we have very few rules. Very few rules. We don't have like the top 10 commandments or anything like that. We don't have the Big Ten. We have a rule that you don't take anything from anyone, you don't walk over anyone's back to get your good, and you don't harm anyone or yourself. And so I think if we could just live by those principles, we could find ourselves in situations where we are really extending peace to one another on levels that we've never dreamt possible, because we're not worried about someone taking something away from us. If you look at what goes on in the world, and I was looking at it from the perspective of why are we always in conflict with people, I think back, it's because there's territories, and there's borders, and there's lines, and there's precious commodities in different countries, and people feel like if I don't hoard those things, then I'm going to be at risk. We have enough food, and we have enough water, and we have the technology so that everyone can feel full and have safe drinking water. But we don't do that yet because there's still a fear that somehow something will be taken away from someone else to provide that. And once we provide that first level of comfort, that will provide a level of peace. People won't be struggling to survive. In my mind, peace is about not having to worry about whether or not I have shelter or whether or not I have food. That's peace of mind. I mean, that's real basic stuff. It seems to me as we launch into this International Day of Peace, and I just noticed, it was so funny because I'm on social media, and I popped onto Facebook today, and it wasn't until this afternoon that I even saw any posting on the International Day of Peace. And I kept thinking, how come this has been silenced? There's probably 50 people here. There should be 5,000 people here. We should be taking a stand on a much larger level and being exposed on a much larger level to people wanting to experience peace. Peace, I have written down here, peace stands at the door of our minds and awaits our acceptance of it. It does not stand outside our door waiting for entrance so much as it stands inside waiting to be expressed in everything that we do. I don't think we can look outside for our peace of mind or for someone to bring us peace. I think each person here is accountable for that and responsible for that. And we have I want to call it a spiritual responsibility to maintain that as much as we can in places that you would never deem possible. But this, I mean, I just heard the story about what you've done, Tom, and how you started this whole group, Troop 66. What do you call it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Post.
Post. Not true. Sorry. That the whole Post 66 and the movement that you have initiated. And I tell you what, I mean, you are a maverick among all people. To think that you could see this as a vision and have this as a purpose, and to bring inclusivity to a country that is, and to a community, and to basically a group of people where diversity sometimes isn't quite accepted as we'd like it to be a maverick in that is just outstanding. So I'd like to give you another round of applause. So I want to conclude by just saying, one of the things that, a spiritual practice that I have been working on myself personally, is to look, instead of looking to find God, it's looking through the eyes of God in everything that I do. Because if we believe that we were created in its image and likeness, and its own creative energies and all of our differences, then I want to be able to look at people that I may not understand, but to see the God in them. The namaste, the God in me salutes the God in them. I believe that when we cross over into that kind of a consciousness, when we cross over to that kind of daily spiritual practice, when we cross over that at whether it's Target or whether it's an airport or whether it's a gas station, whether it's a HOA meeting or whether it is a church or whether it is someone that you run into casually, as soon as we can start seeing people as the God images that they are and respect them and love them, then that fear will dissolve. It's not about violence, it's not about war, and it's not about guns. It's about dissolving the fear and the misunderstandings and the chaos. And the only thing that does that is knowledge and wisdom and action. So I think it requires this to take action. It requires us to be the eyes, the ears, and it's a one-on-one conversation with people on how do we establish this in their lives. And, you know, look, I'm a gay man, like I said, and I hear people that I know say things derogatory about people all the time. And I've finally been just saying, you know what? We're a minority too. So when you're talking about them, you're talking about us. Because there is no them and us, there's only one. So I need people to really stop talking about each other and start seeing the unity that we have with one another and the connection that we have with one another. As soon as we do that and we stop looking at people with titles and labels and perceptions, then we'll launch into a place where there truly is peace. But the peace song is perfect. Tom stole my conclusion. You know, let peace begin with me. And let this be the moment now. And each and every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. For me to take it. Not hold you responsible for my peace, but hold myself responsible for the peace that I want to obtain in my life that will eventually radiate out. But not hold you responsible for creating it, but holding myself. And if we all hold that responsibility, peace does begin with us. And it begins here and it begins now. Thank you very much for your time.